pretty much at 10 a.m. Eastern. So what's going on? As you can see, if you've been watching us live, I'm in a little bit of a different venue. I'm actually on the road, technically the rest of this week, where I've come to my brother's house, and we're going to be doing the live stream from here, at least for today and tomorrow. So what's going on? How y'all doing? If you have any first time joining us, questions, comments about coffee, let me know in the comments or whatever down below. I'm happy to answer them. And we also tailor shows to your questions, so don't be shy to ask. All right, so what we're doing today is we're going to be doing Stovetop Espresso with the Gnali and Zani, not gnarly, Gnali and Zani Moka Pot. This is basically a variation on the Gnali Moka Pot, which you've probably seen. It's a stovetop espresso maker. And, you know, we say stovetop espresso maker and people say espresso, but, you know, yes, it is, and yes, it is not an espresso. Mom, good morning to you, man. How are you doing? So these are really kind of basic. They have two chambers. This one is actually kind of like I don't know if it's not enameled because it's aluminum, but it is coated, and maybe it's powder coated. So it's kind of nice. It's got this wood handle. Actually, the wood, it could use a little finishing. I could probably put some nice, what do you call that? Some board butter on it, which is basically liquid boiled linseed oil with beeswax to give it a nice, like, enriching coating, which is something good for wood. So it's a two-chambered device, and so as you can see here, well, let's take it apart. So you unscrew it, and there's two halves. And some of the important components of this are on the bottom of the top half. You can see this mesh, right? And this mesh is what kind of strains the coffee and keeps the ground coffee from entering your drink. There's also this gasket here. You want to make sure you keep the gasket nice and supple, as well as nice and clean, because, you know, you don't want to have debris on it, because that will wear down, not only wear down the gasket faster, but also can lead to sealing issues, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to force water from the bottom chamber into the upper chamber through the coffee that sits between them, right? And so how it sits between them is that there is this basket here that comes out, aluminum basket with a little strainer here and a little tube. And what happens, how this works is that let's look here first. We've got the lower chamber, right? The lower chamber where you put the water in. As you can see, this one is fairly corroded. Now, I got this from my friend Matt, who bought one. I don't know when he bought it, but he was like, he was gonna get rid of them. He's like, I'm gonna throw these away. Do you want one? I was like, yeah, I'll take this one with me. And so it's been beat up. I've cleaned it out. Now, that's the one thing that I don't really like about Gnali aluminum products is that, or these types of things, because depending on how you keep them, depending on how vigilant you are, they can corrode and get a little bit, you know, not so beautiful. So it just doesn't look so nice. I'm not terribly worried about it. It's probably mineral deposits and some level of corrosion. Maybe there's some leaching of aluminum into your water, but whatever, minerals are a good thing. One of the things you want to be careful, though, is your safety valve, right? This is a safety pressure valve in case there's some kind of issue with the way that it's boiling. You want to have the valve working and unobstructed so that if it needs to work and release, it can. Because, for example, if you're able to clog these two together and there's no way for the water to release, the pressure to release, it theoretically can explode. And you would have to really get the pressure extremely high. But there is that issue, and so that's why they have this pressure valve. What you don't want to do is you don't want to fill the water. When you're filling the water, you don't want to fill it past the valve, right? You want to keep it below the valve. There should be, there's a line somewhere here. It's probably corroded away. Yeah, but anyway, you want to keep it below this line. So we're going to fill the water really to about here, right? When we actually do this. So what happens is you add the water, you add the coffee to the basket, you put the two together, and what's happening inside here is the water is boiling. Well, the water will eventually boil, right? And this water is being pushed up through the stem, which goes through the coffee, and it's the pressurization of the vessel because you're heating the water, as well as the generation of steam when you finally reach boiling, that pushes the water through the coffee and pushes it out. And what happens, it pushes it through this. And inside here, it comes up to this stem. And as you can see, there is these holes. And what it does, it comes out and then just flows down into the bottom of the upper chamber. Now, here's the thing. If you wanted to test it out, like just put water here, no coffee, and put this all together, and you left it open, and you let the thing boil, it will reach boiling, and the boiling will shoot up through the spout. And because it's now no longer being restricted by anything, it will shoot out of here like a, in spurts, like real, and then it'll probably clear the sides if you don't have the lid on, and shoot across the room, or maybe not across the room, but at least across your range. And if you're within, if you're within shot of it, it will hit you and scald you. So don't do that. Just be careful. Just remember that if you're doing that, the thing is fully pressured. You don't wanna, let it do that. Or just keep the lid on, and that will contain everything. Michael, good morning to you, man. Good to see you. So we're gonna make this, and yeah, let's do that now. Let's do that now. One of the things we're gonna do is if I was to take cold water and put it inside this, add the coffee, and then put it together, it would heat up and it would brew eventually, but as the water's heating, it will start to build the pressure. It will start to push the water up through the stem, through the coffee, and then eventually dribble out of the top as the pressure is building. Which means we're giving it longer exposure to the water. We don't want to do that. Plus, we're also ramping up the temperature. We want to give it just enough time to brew and then done, right? Espresso, when we're making espresso like in a machine, we want it to be, within that 30-second range. We want it to be quick, we want it to be fast, we want it to be just the right amount of time to extract the right amount of flavor out of the coffee. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do that here. And so to do this, we're going to actually take this out, fill this with some water, and then start to heat it to bring it closer to the boiling. And once we get to boiling, we're gonna put it back in, put it all together, and then let the thing work. Now, here's the thing. We're gonna be doing this on an open flame burner because that's what my brother has here. And it's pretty much open flame burners and hot plates are pretty much the only thing that will work with aluminum. They do have versions of these type of mocha pots that are stainless steel. Those will work on anything. Like if you want to use induction, much nicer to use those. IKEA sells one that's super cheap. Actually, there's a video on this channel about the IKEA egg lenti that we did maybe 3-4 years ago. That's actually a surprisingly nice stovetop espresso maker. But you want to be careful because it's going to be really hot. So you're going to need some bar towels or something, kitchen towels, so that when we actually, what we're going to do is we're going to bring this to heat, add that in, then we're going to screw it all together under heat, and then let it do its magic. All right, so that's what we're going to do. But let's get ourselves prepared before we do that. What we're going to do first of all is, let's get this ready here with the water. We're going to go here, and the nice thing is that we're in this area. The water is actually really nice. Is this water? Oh, that is water. So there's a filtered water thing here. I'm gonna fill it up with that. All right, so as you can see here, we are below the safety valve. We've got our stove here. Now, what you want to do is that we've got different stove tops on this burner. This center one has a pretty big flame. We don't want that. This one here has a medium-sized flame, right? We want the one that has the smaller flame, right? Because we want to have just enough coverage under the bottom part, and we also want to have enough space so that what we want to make sure that these grates are not so big that they'll fall through. But luckily we're okay here. So put that on. We're gonna turn this, bring the heat. And what you want to do is here, let me pull this down a little bit closer. You want to make sure that as you're setting the flame, that the flame is just enough to, you don't want it to be too large. Actually, this one doesn't get too large, which is good. But you want to turn it down just so that it covers the pot, right? We don't need to boil it so fast. As long as we get it boiling, we should be good to go. Now, time for the coffee. We got our little thing here. Now, I think this will hold up to 18 grams, whatever. I don't know. I didn't measure it. I'm not terribly worried about it. This type of brewing, we're just going to be doing something a little bit more loose, right? So like I said, I'm on the road technically, so what do I like to do? I like to grind coffee. This is the House Nation. I just took the House Nation and I ground it up very espresso fine. I want a really fine, of course, want a really fine grind for this, right? And what we're gonna do is we're going to fill it with the coffee. We're just gonna fill it up and make it, what do you call it? We're gonna fill it and make it right. I'm gonna use that little cup there to I'm gonna fill. I actually measured out 42 grams of coffee, so this is quite a lot. This is a good 30 grams. Oh, so I'm just going to shake it out and leave it like this, right? Just kind of even. If you want to do some, we can add a little bit more to it. So this is 30 plus grams. I'm just going to distribute it out. Don't tamp it down, right? We don't want to tamp it down because tamping will only increase the resistance. And we don't necessarily want to increase the resistance to the coffee, through the coffee, because the pressure generated in this mocha pot is only going to be about 2 bars, right? Remember that when you're doing an espresso machine, like you might be thinking, oh, espresso machine, we can tamp it because it's making espresso. But remember, espresso machine is running about 8.5 to 9 bars, which is 135 PSI, more or less. So it's a lot more pressure than what's coming through here. This is just boiling pressure. It's not doing anything really crazy or anything, right? So you want to make sure that you're not giving too much pressure. Just get it nice and distributed evenly. Just try to get an even distribution across the basket. Oh, good, that's not making a mistake. Making a mess here. We're just waiting for this to heat. Now we can, it's going a little bit slowly. We can pump up the heat a little bit more. Now, one of the things to remember, we're going to be taking this and we're going to be, let me adjust this so we can see it, right? What we're going to take this, once this reaches a kind of a boiling, or once it starts to really steam well, we're going to then attach everything. Now it's going to be really hot, so be careful with that. Also, I'm going to be using a kitchen towel to do that. Turn off the flame. Don't be like me and get stuff on fire, because, you know, in open flames and you're working with cloth, you can easily ignite those, and then it becomes a lot more of a dramatic video than we had originally intended. So we will be careful with that. But we got it, it's heating up. It's going to take a few minutes to heat up. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So how's everyone doing today? We are here and looking around, trying to figure out how to make better coffee. This feels like it's taking a long time. Like I feel like it's faster on the burner at the bar that we have. Don't rush it, don't rush it. I want to rush it, but let's not rush it. Let's get a better look at that. So we kind of want to make sure that we're waiting for it to boil, or at least come very close to a boil, so that we're at the right kind of temperature, the right kind of heat. And that way we can just use that pressurization from the heat to push the water through the coffee and brew quickly. And what we're going to do is we're also going to be listening as we're brewing. There's going to be a point where it's going to be pushing the water up through the stems, right? It's pushing the water through the stems, and eventually we're going to reach a point where it starts to sputter. We would ideally like to stop the brew before it sputters, which means we have to remove it from the heat. Right? Also, another thing you want to be aware of when you're using open flames such as this, you want to be aware of the size of the flame, because not only if you're using too wide a flame, it'll rise up the sides and heat the sides more dramatically than it would otherwise. But also, if you're depending on your handle, it could have started to affect the handle, right? It could, if it's bakelite or whatever, plastic, it could start to melt that. If it's metal, it'll just superheat that, which means that it's gonna be a danger to you as you grab onto it later. And then if it's wood, of course, it could singe the wood, perhaps at some point ignite it. All right, we're starting to get some bubbles now on the water. A little bit of steam is being generated, so that steam means we're getting some pressurization. Let me reset the camera here so you guys can see a lot better what we're going to do. All right, now we've got a rolling boil. Rolling boil. Good. We're there at the rolling boil. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the flame, take the kitchen towel. I'm going to just pull it closer to me. Goodness, just so that I can work with it easier. Drop this in, put this on top. Now I'm just holding the top here, which is still cool. I'm actually giving it a little bit of, there we go. Nice and snug. Put that back on. Hit it with the heat. Uh-oh. Shoot. Oh, I was kind of scared that was actually leaking off gas. I didn't smell any gas, but I was worried that it was leaking off gas and it would actually explode on us. So I was hitting top off here, and we're going to start to watch our spout and see when it starts to come up, right? We want to see it come up as it brews. I've got the flame back to, yeah, pretty much kind of full. We can start to hear the sound coming from the device. It's starting to push it through, I think. It's definitely boiling. So we stopped it at boiling so that it would be right, we would have as least amount of time to brew as possible. It's kind of, here it comes. Oh, there it is. Oh yeah, now we're brewing. This is it. Now see how it's kind of it's jumping over here now? We want to modulate the heat, turn down the heat, because now it's getting too violent. It's getting way too violent. I'm going to close that up. So I lowered the heat. Now I'm going to have to mess to clean up. My sister-in-law's going to be unhappy if I leave it this way. So I've turned down the heat to fully low. let's modulate that by pulling it off a little bit. Now, of course, when you do this normally, you can just leave the lid on, and this won't be an issue. This is much better like this. As with any kind of brewing method, the more you use it, the more you'll get a feel for it, especially on whatever equipment you're using it on. Okay, now it's starting a little more violent, which means with a very low temperature, which means we're getting to the end of the water. As you can see, the water is also filling up. So I'm going to turn off the water, turn off the flame, pull it away from the flame so that it totally doesn't have anything to keep it heating. And that's pretty much it. All right, there it is. There it is. We've made our mocha pot espresso, and as you can see, it's an elixir, nice and dark, a little bit oily looking on the top there. So let us do some tasting now. We've got our little mug here, an espresso glass. Kind of reminds me of Turkish coffee, at least the color of it, right? The colorways. All right, so it's going to be hot, so be careful with it as it's going to be hot. Let me just readjust here. So it's going to be hot, like I said, so you got to be a little bit careful. Oh. Better. Did we have any questions while we were brewing? No, okay. Oops. So there it is. Kanpai. There's good brightness. A little bit of bitter, not terribly bitter. I mean, this is not a really darkly roasted coffee, right? It's fairly on the lighter side, so it's got a lot of nice lighter things. And here's the thing, you don't have to, a lot of people are under the feeling that they need to use dark roast coffee for this type of brewing or espresso brewing. You don't need to use that. You can use whatever you want. This is just this way of brewing coffee is just another method of brewing. You can use whatever you want. Whatever makes you happy, that's what you should be using, right? So here it is. A little bit of dryness on the finish, like a tannic kind of dryness. I think the body feels light, right? Like if we're brewing this same coffee, and this is the same coffee we use in a lot of the pours we're making, I think we're getting a lot more body, or at least a little bit more body out of those pour brews. I'm not sure why that would be. Again, these are different ways of brewing coffee, are just different ways of expressing the coffee. Another one, I wouldn't say that any one is right or wrong or necessarily better than the other. Like I've said before, I always kind of liken it to cooking, right? Like there's chicken. This is coffee, and there's chicken, right? This is coffee to the chicken, and then this is like roasting chicken. Other ways are like frying chicken, right? Like last night I had fried chicken, right? Sometimes I want to have roasted chicken, or sometimes I want to have it a la brasa, right? Which is also roasted. I don't know why I said that, but anyway, just different ways of doing it doesn't necessarily change the fact that it's still the coffee that you're choosing. It just shows it in different ways, allows you to experience it in different ways. Now, speaking of different ways, what do we do with coffee that we're going to be drinking? How do we enjoy it best? So for this, we're going to try a couple things today. First of all, my cousin's here from Hawaii, and he brought me a bag of his cookies, Chihu's. This is their All Right Coffee Macadamia Crunch. Now, I have to give full disclosure. When I was in Honolulu almost 2 years ago, I helped him with recipe development for this cookie. But I gotta say, it's pretty darn good. I saw him last night when he gave it to me. This thing was completely full. It was here. So in less than 12 hours, oh no, in about 12 hours, I have been plowing through this bag. And I'm not eating it one sitting. I'm just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna have 2 more. But these are made in Hawaii, and you know, small cottage type industry. So if you buy some, it's actually supporting truly a cottage industry. But you can see here, it's got this macadamia nut. Whoa, darn it. It's got macadamia nuts. Let me get another one. It's got macadamia nuts here, like little macadamia nuts. There's some kind of coffee in there. There's chocolate chips and cacao nibs. So it's got this really nice kind of crunchy and depth of chocolate to it. A little bit of ala air salt. So let's try it with the exactly the 5-second rule. That's nice. That's a nice way to do it. All right, so if you're interested, Chihu's, I got the link down in the description below. I get nothing out of it. Not even like affiliate links on it. Just my cousin's doing it. It's really a great product. If you want to try it, give it a try. Also, what I picked up this morning, went to the local bakery here and got this. This is a chocolate almond croissant, or maybe what they would say, almond pain au chocolat in Paris, or if you're in southwestern France, a chocolatine, which evidently, if you order a chocolatine in Paris, at certain patisseries, they will kick you out and refuse you service. So this is pain au chocolat with the almonds and almond cream and a little bit of dusty powder. We need more now. Now, when you're using this, right, we boiled in it, we brewed in it, it's also hot. Either be very careful, like I just pulled it off the stove, and you could be very like casual and put it down on your countertop, right? And this, my sister-in-law has a butcher block countertop, which if I was to put this down directly on it, could scald it. So we gotta be careful. I'm not gonna put it in the sink so I don't make that mistake of scalding it. Then I'd have to replace it. Oh, that's good, that's good. Wait, don't eat those. All right, another bite, So a nice accompaniment in the morning, and like I said, using the Stovetop Espresso maker, the Moka Pot style espresso maker, is just another method of brewing, right? You can use any coffee you want and find the coffee that you like. Like, I would say that this is a bit bright of a coffee, that, at least, especially in this format, and I think there's a little bit of clashing with this particular product. Like, it's not total harmony. There's a little bit of clash because of the brightness in this brew and the sweet butteriness of the croissant or the chocolatine. Soon I will have Parisians pounding on the door, being, calling for my demise because I called their pain au chocolat a chocolatine. I don't have any allegiance to those two. I don't have any allegiance to Bordeaux. My allegiance is more towards the Provence, the Luberon area. My dream is to one day spend a month or 3 months, maybe half a year, renting a nice little house in the Luberon and just pretending that I'm in France. All right, well, that's it pretty much for today. How to make coffee using a stovetop espresso maker. This one is made by Gnali and Zani, which I'm not sure who they are, but nice guys. And you know, this basically a base. It's pretty much a Bialetti. Now, one thing to keep in mind as you look at different of the stovetop espresso makers, Bialetti, Gnali and Zani, and all these other brands that are out there, IKEA, different basket. They all run on the same principle. They all generally are the same size, but the actual basket and the capacity of the basket is going to be different. So, if you just want to be, if you just don't want to think about it, no-braining kind of thing, just get the Bialetti. Bialetti's so easy. But the Bialetti is going to cost you $30 to $40. If you get the stainless steel version, it's cost you more, like $50 to $60, maybe a little bit more. They do have a Dolce & Gabbana one. That's a Bialetti Dolce & Gabbana. There's two different styles that I saw from Williams-Sonoma exclusive. $99. I'm tempted, but it is aluminum, so it's like I need induction. If I'm going to use it at the new shop, I need induction. Now they do sell a plate, like a stainless steel plate that you can put on your induction burner, and then add that on top. I don't know how good that works. I guess it works fine, but yeah, that's something to consider. Or and then if budget is really a problem, consider the one from IKEA. It's surprisingly good, decent, great for the price point. It's stainless steel, it's 2-chamber, works with induction, and just gets you there. So, all right, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. Be back tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow we're going to be doing this coffee syrup. We're going to be exploring coffee syrup from Rhode Island. And yeah, there it is. All right, until next time, hope you have a great one. And see you then.